Hello there. I'm Danny Ceballos, executive coach and founder of Unleashed Consulting. Welcome to the premiere episode of the Best Boss Whisperer podcast, where we take serious leadership and stop taking ourselves so seriously. Today, I'm joined by best-selling author and leadership maven Laura Gassner Otting. We're talking about how to reignite your leadership mojo, the spark that reminds you why you started leading in the first place. And I want you to listen for 3 whispers today. 1, align who you are with what you do. 2, stop chasing success you don't even want. And 3, doubt and ambition aren't opposites, they are partners. All right, let's get into it. And I am so excited to interview and bring you a new favorite author of mine named Lauren Gassner Otting. And I had the opportunity to meet Laura in a book club discussing her book, Wonderhell. And we chatted about that. And she's also the author of another terrific book called Limitless around leadership development. Anyway, so excited to have Laura here. Dear listener, let me tell you a little bit about Laura, and then we're going to get into some Q&A around leadership resilience and finding your limitless mojo again. All right, so Laura's secret superpower is seeing your greatness and reflecting it back on you so that you get unstuck and achieve extraordinary results. A frequent contributor to Good Morning America, The Today Show, Harvard Business Review, and Oprah Daily, Laura is the Wall Street Journal best-selling author of 3 books, Wonderhell, Limitless, and Mission Driven. Laura's 30-year resume is defined by her entrepreneurial edge. She served as a presidential appointee in Bill Clinton's White House, helping shape AmeriCorps, left a leadership role at a respected national search firm to expand a tech startup, and founded, ran, and sold her own global search firm, partnering with the full gamut of mission-driven corporate and nonprofit executives. So anyway, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit, just to kind of to seed the garden here a little bit, about some of the insights and some of the things that you can pull out of any of your books, but I'm especially curious about Limitless. And I'm especially wondering about working with leaders that are bumping into that ceiling of energy, of motivation, of all those things, and getting really close to burnout, but still having the passion and the drive to do the best that they can.
So my first book, my last book, Limitless, was born out of 20 years in executive search, an executive search career that I had for universities, foundations, nonprofit institutions, healthcare organizations, mission-driven organizations.
Yes.
It was my job in executive search to call the most successful people on behalf of my clients and recruit them away to work for my clients.
Yeah.
Sounds like kind of a hard job, right? Call the most successful people and ask them to consider a whole new job. So here's what would happen. I called these people specifically because they were so successful. But despite all that success, they weren't very happy. And so they all called me back. And I was fascinated about this. Why did these people who had so much success and also purpose, why were they not happy? Which is consonance, where everything we do is aligned with everything we are. And we're bringing that best version of ourselves to the problems we actually want to solve. And we're rewarded for it in ways that are personally interesting to us, whether it's karmic, financial, emotional, etc. So that's Limitless. And then Wonderhell is really sort of the next book in the series of as you're growing in the journey. Once you find a definition of success, something you actually care about, and you're starting to see some success in that thing that actually matters to you, suddenly you're achieving something that you didn't even know you could achieve. It's Wonderhell. And Wonderhell is the space at that top where the burden of your potential walks in and goes, hey, man, what you got for me? What are you going to do with this vision of where you can go next? Are you going to just sit here and let it pass you by? Or are you going to jump into it with both feet? And so we could talk about either one or both of those if you want to talk about it. But this moment in between who you were yesterday and who you just realized you can become tomorrow, that moment of why success doesn't feel better, this potential, the pressure that we feel, that's where I spent all of my time.
I'm wondering if you can help me bridge. So a leader, a manager, doing well, having a vision for themselves on what they can become with the right circumstances or what they want, bumping into the exhaustion and now needing to make that leap between, what I am and where I want to go and how to work through those fears. I keep thinking as you're talking about, I'm like, that's all great until we bump into the fear.
I'm a professional keynote speaker. I get to meet all sorts of cool people in the green room. I get, Olympic medalists and startup unicorns and gold medal winners and just be like the first of glass ceiling shatterers. I'm going to call them up and figure out what on earth to do. This was also during the pandemic, so I was like, I've got time on my hands because no events, no speaking, like it was fine. So I called them all up. And I ended up interviewing like 100 different glass ceiling shatters, Olympic medalists, startup unicorns, everyday people like us, all in search of a way to survive this moment. How do I get through this moment of like bowel shaking fear? And what I realized was that none of them got through it because on the other side of this Wonderhell was just the next one, and they had to get comfortable being uncomfortable. They had to learn to thrive in it
Uh,
instead. And so they did three things. The first was they learned to embrace their ambition. They were like, I'm scared, but I'm so interested in that thing that I could do. I'm just going to embrace that I want it and see what happens. Number one.
mhm,
Number two, rather than hearing the voice inside their head saying you're an imposter, you don't belong, you haven't done this before, they heard it instead as you haven't done this before, and it became exciting. So
mm,
it wasn't a limitation, it was an invitation. And then
mm,
the third piece was they said, oh, this is interesting. And every time I figure out something else, there's another version of me on the other side of it. So rather than bracing for it and trying to survive it, I'm going to learn to look forward to it, right? I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to pause. I'm going to listen to the emotions that are coming at me and the lessons. And I'm actually going to look forward to thriving in it instead. And so they just changed their entire approach to what it is. And, what I thought was the most interesting when I spoke to people was that I started to realize that there is this moment where even if you don't want to make the leap, it's coming at you anyway. So one of the people I interviewed was Whitney Johnson, who was, one of the best business thinkers in the world. And she told me about the S curve, which is like the sort of like you take an S on the side. At the bottom of the S curve, it's flat. You have no idea what you're doing. Everything is really hard. Then you start to like hit the curve, right? It's getting a little bit easier. You're figuring it out. You're starting to get some momentum. You're like, cool, I got it. I can see like that maybe I could do this one day. And then you hit the top of the S and you're like, yes, score. I know how to do what I'm doing. Everything is great. And so
mm,
even
mhm,
if you're at the top and you're like, I'm scared,
mhm,
you got to figure out how to make the leap to the next S curve because it ends anyway.
mhm, mhm. For the sabotaging behaviors, thinking feel as what did you say? As an invitation rather than a limitation.
Yes.
I think that's so powerful, and knowing that there's with the path of success, it's inevitable that we'll hit the S curve. That's the path
That's the
that leaders
path.
choose. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And, the thing about this sort of imposter syndrome that we're
Yeah,
talking about, right? Do I belong here? I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God. I
yes.
talked to Dory Clark, who, again, another great business writer, who said, every time I tried to reinvent myself to do something new, I would look around and I would say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I get to the next step. But she said, but you know what? The last place I was, I didn't know what I was doing either. I
Right.
didn't know how to get here. And she said, it's not that everything, like everything you've done before got you to here. It's not
Yes,
going to get you to where you're going next. But
yes.
everything that you've done before is built on a foundation of asking questions, learning, problem solving, right? Figuring it out in a way that like you don't lose those skills. You
Mm,
just apply them to the next thing. So I think we have to remember that there's translatable skills and transferable skills. And
yeah,
the next place you go, you're not going to be able to transfer the skills directly because why would you go there? It would be boring to go to
yeah,
the next place just to transfer skills. But
right.
if you can translate the skills and then figure out how to solve the next problem using the skills you developed from the
Yes,
last problem, that
yes.
becomes super interesting.
Yes, yeah, and not leapfrogging some of that. Right, the gifts and opportunities are right there. Grab them, move on, but you
Yes.
can't start leapfrogging that. Hey,
Yes.
could you comment on, especially in Limitless, where we talk about, kind of recrafting our leadership narrative and who we are and what, really coming from the heart on that. I I I s- I struggle with, and I work with clients around authenticity versus effectiveness, and the argument being really that, we get all this about being authentic, bring your full self. And I think you really don't want my full authentic self at work, right? That's safe for like Saturday nights and different, that's not what you want. Is my best, most effective way of being. What are your thoughts on that, on authenticity versus effectiveness?
We want you to bring your whole self, except the ones that disagree with our policies. We want you to bring your whole self, except for the ones that are like making us think about, our antiquated, ideas about the world.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
everybody wants your whole self. And like, it's sort of like an executive search. They were like, we want a change agent until someone starts changing things. So, what do you really want? What do you really want? And so I think what I tend to ask people is to change is to start with the solution, right? So you're not saying like, what do you want from me? How can I help? But you're saying, what does success look like? If we were doing this right, what would it look like here? And then you can figure out what parts of you actually belong. Because I think what happens is somebody says, bring your whole self to work, and we bring our whole selves, and suddenly we're like a square peg in a round hole.
Yes.
If you understood it was a round hole, you'd bring a different part of yourself. And so, it's kind of like the fake it till you make it nonsense advice. Like, I might do something I've never done before. I'm not faking it till I'm making it. I'm just turning up parts of me and turning down other parts of me. So I am an introvert to my core, but I make my living as a motivational speaker, as a leadership speaker. I get on stage and I do the razzmatazz.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that that's who I am. It just means there's part of me that can do that. I turn myself up on stage in that area, and I turn myself down when I get off stage. I'm not sitting in my living room doing that. That's if I brought my whole self wouldn't belong, because there's extroverted parts and introverted parts. So figuring out what parts are demanded by the organization, demanded by the solution that is being sought, allows us to understand which parts of ourselves to turn up or turn down, so that we
Right.
feel like we're more in consonance with the organization. I like to say it would be great if we could bring everything we are to everything we do. It's hard to have 100% alignment with that, right? Like, I don't know, maybe you're a good businessman, but
Right.
people talk about work-life balance, and I
Hmm.
think we need to find work-life alignment. So if we're aligned, if
Hmm.
we're not costume changing and code shifting from who we were at
Hmm.
home to who we are at work,
Hmm.
great. I don't think that we're too busy. We're just busy doing things that don't matter to us, right? So if we can find work that actually is consonant with our values, with who
Hmm.
we are, with how we want to manifest ourselves into the world, then we can bring more of ourselves, even if not bringing every single bit of ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%. And I am glad to hear you also in that camp. Yeah, for me, it's again, it's about what do you want? What does effective mean to you? What does success mean to you? Start with that and then back in. And I think that's a measure of authenticity as much as anything else is, but it's about being clear about what that means and staying in one's integrity while making choices
Sure.
about part. Yeah. Yes.
What
Right.
does this organization look like in 12 months, in 18 months, in 24 months, in 5 years? If you're successful, what does the organization look like? Okay. Now, what kind of person do you need to get you there? Because
Yes.
that's a different question than like, let's just fill the role that was left, because maybe the person who was there wasn't the right person. Maybe they were. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it turns out that you, board chair, you don't know either. Right. So we have to actually have the conversation to figure out whether or not, who we're looking for, because we have to start with, what does success mean? Right. Not how can I help? What can I do? How's it all about me? But what needs to happen for
Yes.
us to be successful in this endeavor? Then, when we know that, we can understand how to apply the right pressure, the right skill set. And, we talked about burnout at the top of this with the
Yes.
people who are working in the fields where your
Yes.
listeners are working. And so much of the time, people in this industry have burnout because we're trying to do all the things for all the people, all the animals, all the causes, all the everything, all the
Mhm.
time. When
Mhm.
really we have to say, like, what is the specific lever that I can pull to make the maximal amount of change in this one specific area? And
Mhm.
how will
Mhm.
I measure my success? Right? Because we're not going to like save the whales, cool the earth, feed the poor, right? Like, it's really hard to ever judge ourselves as successful when it's like
Mhm.
cure diabetes, right? That's not going to work. But if we have very specific metrics of what success looks like,
Mhm.
using the levers that we have, the skill set that we have, the access that we have, we can decide whether or not our investment of time, or talent, our treasure is actually moving forward towards that goal. And if not, make some strategic changes so that we are.
And it suggests another question that I'd like to ask you is, from your research in the book, do you have a sense for what are the questions one asks oneself when one thinks one is not in the right place with their leadership? So let's say I'm a leader, I'm a manager, I taking into account that I want to be effective, not just authentic, all the things we talked about. And I'm starting to think that all the ways that I'm being pulled at in this organization for my leadership do not align or do not feel like they align. Do you have a sense for where that tipping point can be, should be, might be for?
Yeah. What is the time when I feel the most effective, the most at myself, the most able to create change? Like, number one, when do I actually feel like I have the most agency? Number two, uh, what is what is the cause that I care about? What is the problem I'm trying to solve? What's the societal ill that I'm trying to absolve? And then number three, how do I want to be rewarded for it? Right. So I ask people all the time, tell me about a time when you were at your very best. You were being called upon to bring the very best of everything that you were capable of doing. Number one, to solve, number two, a problem about which you care deeply. And number three, you're being rewarded for solving that problem in a way that is personally, spiritually,
Mhm,
karmically, financially interesting to you.
mhm,
That's the moment when you are most in consonance. That's the moment when you're bringing everything you
mhm,
are to everything you do. So
mhm,
is there a
mhm,
problem? Like what is the highest and best use of your time, the
mhm,
greatest skill set you have to solve a problem you actually care about, and you're being rewarded for it in a way that is meaningful to you?
mhm,
And
mhm,
again, that reward could be karmic, it could be emotional, it could be financial, it could be career trajectory, it's opportunity creating, or whatever it is. And then I would have a conversation with leadership. And if they see that version of you and they're excited about that version of you and they reward that version of you, if they teach that version of you, if they mentor that version of you, you're in the right place.
right.
If you bring that version of you to leadership and they're like, what?
Yeah,
I don't think they don't get it, then
yeah,
you're probably in the wrong place.
yeah, I
So
love
I
that.
think it's figuring out who you are when you're at your very best. And if that person is
Mhm,
actually received and loved and cared and celebrated.
mhm. Yes. Bravo. Amen. And also I think for everybody listening out there, recognizing that, I think we got all caught up in our worlds and think there is not success outside of this world. I can't see myself being successful in another organization that really values, rewards everything that you just said.
And the truth is, sadly, that the graveyard is filled with indispensable people. And when you leave, like there was somebody there before you, there's going to be somebody there after you, right?
Yeah,
And if you
yeah,
are not bringing your very best to everything that you're doing where you are right now, there's probably a place where you can bring
yeah,
everything that
that's
you
exactly
do to
right.
everything that you are. And you'll be even better for that organization. So you're actually both stealing from the current organization by not being your very best, and you're stealing from the other organization by not being there and
Right,
bringing your best. So we
right.
have to remind ourselves that,
Yeah.
you know, it- we are not that important except
Yes.
where we are. And we should make
Yeah.
sure that we are in the place where we are that
In
important.
the right place. In the right place we are that. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Good. Hey, Laura, based on all the research and all the interviews that you did for all the three books, what uh, any other surprising things that came out for you that you can share with our listeners?
Probably this question of imposter syndrome that every single person I talked to had it. Whether they were starting their second $1 billion company, whether they were running from Congress to Senate, whether they were at the top of a ski slope with a gold medal in their pocket, waiting to go on the next gold medal run, right? Everybody had this moment of like, I didn't know I could do that.
Huh, huh,
Can
yeah.
I do this? And so this moment when we're standing like 9 toes over the edge of incompetency, we
Uh-huh.
don't actually know if we're capable of doing the next thing. We think everybody around us knows what they're doing. Turns out nobody knows what they're doing. They're all making it up as they go along.
It
And to
seems
me,
so.
that was both horrifying and also sort of liberating, right? It was like, well, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Like I can just be me.
yeah.
And great. I began to understand as I spoke to the people I spoke to for all three books that the moments that they came alive and the moments that they were super effective for their companies, their communities, their countries were the moments when they let their freak flag fly
Yeah, I
and they
love it.
just were themselves. And they were like, you know what? I am not going to be for everybody,
Mm,
but boy, am I going to be for some people.
mm,
Right. And if
mhm,
I can double down in the places where like what I am putting down, people are picking up, I can be so much more effective for those people than trying to be a little bit for everybody. And so just this
mhm,
like understanding that like I can be an introvert and a keynote speaker, right? I mean,
mhm,
I can be super awkward and also, you know, run marathons. Like we can be like we are made up of multiples and the exploration of that is part of life's joy, but we don't have to hide the process because the process, the journey is where we figure it all out. And by the
mhm,
way, there are a lot of people who are paying attention, especially leaders. They're paying attention to you, even if they're not actively engaging, actively talking, actively applauding, they're still watching. And I feel like we owe it to all of them to show them that we're
mhm,
all figuring it out as we go along too.
mhm, mhm. I mean, I really like the evolution, and I'm gonna suggest this to you listeners is, I if you're starting kind of on your leadership journey or thinking that, start with Limitless. That's the way, and then understanding that Wonderhell is like when you've hit your mark and you're in a place, that's where Wonderhell is really, really descriptive. What was your third title again?
So the third title was actually it was the first book I wrote in
Yeah.
2007 and it was called Mission Driven and it was about transitioning from corporate to nonprofit work.
Awesome. All right. Well, listen, we are running out of time here, but I would like to give you one last an invitation. Is there anything else that you can share that you think might be helpful for those leaders that are like, I get it, I get it, I get it. I'm still exhausted. I don't know what to do next.
Well, what I would say is you're probably not exhausted from doing too much, but you're probably exhausted from doing too much that doesn't matter. So I would
Uh,
ask you to look at your calendar, look at your inbox, look at your to do list, and ask yourself, is there anything on here that someone else can do?
yeah.
Because we get very distracted by action. I'm just going to check off the easy things and we forget about impact, which are some of the harder things. And your highest and best use of your time as a leader is to do the things that only you can do.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
So look at that list. Is everything on that list stuff only you can do? And if it's not, you got to get rid of it.
Yeah. I have as I think it's just useful to think about. I have as one of my themes this year is joyful engagement. And I'm trying not to do anything that I can't be like, this is joyfully engaging with this. I'm not doing yucky stuff. I'm doing the things that I can joyfully engage.
Exactly. And, you know, look, so like if you're
Mhm.
listening and you're like, I don't have a big team, how am I going to get rid of that thing? I don't want to do payroll. Somebody else can do it, but I have to do it. At least deprioritize it because we're always going to find time
Exactly.
for the stuff that doesn't really light us up. You're never going to not enter payroll. Like you're going to do it. But it comes at the like we end up putting it like at 9 a.m. on a Monday. Like eat the frog first, do the hardest thing. That's nonsense. Like when do you do your very best work? I am amazing in the morning from 9 to noon. I write, I rehearse, I do all my creative stuff. In the afternoons, I do podcasts because this is a conversation. I'm not bringing all the energy. I'm sharing the energy with you. So I'm never going to say yes to a podcast first thing in the morning because that's stealing my gold from my job as a writer. So what like you also may be an
Mhm.
evening person, so like at 8 p.m. you might light up. What is the time when you do your very best work? Figure out what only you can do and guard that time with your life. Like put those times on your calendar, guard it with your life
Mm,
and
mhm.
don't move them. Like I have 3 blocks every week for 3 hours in the morning. And my assistant knows like if she needs to move Monday to Tuesday, she can, but she can never move Tuesday to next week, right? Like it's like there are always three, even if it's not the same 3 days. So what is your gold? What is your best time? What is the stuff that only you can do? And make sure you're prioritizing that stuff, even if you have to do some of the yucky stuff.
Yeah, and protecting it. Yeah, and yeah, the yucky stuff is the means to the end. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Laura, thank you so much. This was wonderful. So appreciate it. And can you tell folks if they want to get in your universe and stay in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah. So my name is Laura Gassner Otting. All my good friends call me LGO. So I'm at HeyLGO on all the socials. And you can find me at lauragassnerotting.com. And my books Limitless and Wonderhell and probably Mission Driven are sold on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere fine books are sold.
Awesome. Awesome. Laura, thank you so, so much. That was Laura Gassner Otting and me, exploring what it really takes to reignite your leadership mojo. Remember these three whispers. 1, your purpose isn't just what you do, it's why you do it. 2, success without alignment always feels empty. And 3, doubt means you're growing, not failing. I'm Danny Ceballos, and this is the Best Boss Whisperer. Serious leadership without taking yourself too seriously. The best bosses, they don't shout, they whisper.